So welcome. We are here today with Derek Rhodes. I'll start with just a brief introduction of who Derek Rhodes truly is. So he's a devoted Durham native and a certified Cameron Crazy. Class of 2015, Rhodes spent his 4 years as a manager of the men's basketball team, while also doing intentional community work as the Duke Student Government Vice President for Durham Regional Affairs. He carries a loaded resume with time spent in the U.S. Department of Justice, Google, the Miami Heat, the Obama Foundation, and even Microsoft. However, closest to his heart and most notable, of course, is his own organization, the Durham Success Summit, which we'll dive deeper into in just a moment. So I just want to welcome keynote speaker, consultant, business strategist, entrepreneur, CEO, Derek Rhodes.
Thank you, KJ. That's crazy. You got to introduce me every time.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm thrilled to be with y'all. Thank you.
Perfect. So I want to start at the beginning because, like I mentioned in your bio, you are Durham born and raised. So, what makes Durham a forever home for you and a key part of your mission to help young Black men like yourself?
Yeah, Durham. I mean, I think like everyone, you think your hometown is the best. But I do truly believe that Durham is the best city in the U.S. And for me, that was just always rooted in the fact that Durham, it has always been diverse in terms of what it offers to the community, in terms of its population. And I think what we're seeing now is the result of what I started noticing it as a child, right? Which was that downtown, growing up for me, my parents would say, like, why are you down there? Right. It was not a place where like you were getting a lot done or you had these amazing restaurants. But slowly and surely over time, I started seeing things pop up and increase my curiosity. I think not just about Durham specifically, but about how cities work, how they run, how everyday people engage with cities. And for me at the time, I was 16-year-old Black man in Durham, and so I was thinking a lot about what the changes in the city meant for me as a local high school student, as someone thinking about going to Duke or somewhere in the area, and so all that really shaped how I think about community work now, but obviously at Durham Success Summit, where our mission is to make sure that young Black men between 16 and 24 are able to take advantage of all the opportunities that are around locally. And so, I'm inspired by it, by Durham's history, and I also think I'm excited to see all of the change that's happening and the opportunity we have for it to do some good.
Yeah, it's fast moving. There's a new apartment building every day downtown, it seems like.
Tell me about it. New apartment buildings with no parking and and high rises. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's pick into that time, your time at Duke. Like you said, you were a prospective student turned real student. And like many Duke students, you were very involved, most notably, like I mentioned, that basketball manager position during that championship year in 2015. There's so much money flowing to the university as a result, of course, of the basketball, but just in general, alumni are very gracious and very excited to continue the Duke legacy. So, especially with Duke students in mind, how can they leverage this financial support from Duke during their time to make more equitable changes in the Durham community?
Oh, yeah, I appreciate this question, KJ. So I had a dinner with a public policy class last week. We went to Dame's Chicken and Waffles on Foster Street. Check it out if you haven't been. And there were about nine of us it's talking, and one of the things that came up was like, how can we authentically engage, right, with Durham? And I think your question adds another layer of really good complexity, which is that students do have resources beyond their time, beyond their skills. They actually have financial resources just by being at a place like Duke. And so, we're thrilled to partner with Duke on a couple of opportunities that provide financial resources to students so that they can engage. And so some of those are internship programs. So, we are a nonprofit. We will not be able to pay you the same as our consulting counterparts that I know a lot of folks over at Duke are interested in, but the university does have scholarships and funding for lower or unpaid internships, or internships that are compensated well, but are involved with the local community. So, I think thinking about nonprofits, whether that's Durham Success Summit or the Emily Krzyzewski Center or Student U Durham, all amazing organizations who, you know, if you had financial support from the university, you could have the same package, if you will, as someone, you know, getting all expense paid in Austin or New York or wherever for their roles. And so I always tell people, think about us in that way, because it really benefits smaller organizations to have the brains of so many students within our organization. But unfortunately, because of finances and because we, you know, put our money towards program first, we're not always able to grab the great talent coming out of Duke. So that's definitely one way. And then the second way is everyone has a network, right? And I think one of the things that I've enjoyed is getting comfortable sharing my story and asking people to support our work financially. And so think about the people around you on campus. Think about the parents that you interact with, the faculty, or either other students, right? You have an opportunity, whether that's to make a direct ask on behalf of an organization face to face, or, you know, I see a lot of students planning amazing events where, you know, the money raised can go to local charities. And I'll raise my hand and say, Durham Success Summit would love for you all to fundraise for us or to come and help us plan events that people, you know, young professionals want to be part of. We understand that levels are different. So those are just some of the ways that I'm happy to highlight.
Of course, of course. So you mentioned just a little bit being program first with Durham Success Summit. Break it down for us. What all is encompassed in Durham Success Summit?
Durham Success Summit, we are a community-based organization that believes that young men benefit from safe spaces, from access to safe spaces, and to quality professional mentors. And so we believe that if we can create community, create safe space, and build up a network of mentors who have worked as leaders in some of the top industries, that as a result, young men will see personal growth and economic mobility. And so we don't want to just help young men enter jobs. We want to make sure that they are more confident, right? In that they have the sort of intangible, those softer skills that are still important to getting promoted and to, you know, understanding your role in the world. And so we do that through a couple of programs. You guys are about to hear exclusively a new one we're launching. So our Summit Scholars Program is our 3-month program for leadership development. It's an accelerator. We meet every Monday night for 3 hours. And throughout the week, one-on-one, talking about our goals, talking about the skills that, you know, we want to work on. And we help young men find internships or apprenticeships or entry-level jobs upon graduating. And then next year, we also are going to have our Summit Founders Program. And so, again, all of our programs are for young Black men, 16 through 24 in Durham. And so we're going to launch a 6-month program helping aspiring entrepreneurs build businesses. And so at the end of, June 2023, we'll have 20 young men who are working with our partners at Fidelity and Blue Cross Blue Shield. And then we'll have 20 who are having businesses in Durham and throughout the city and with some seed funding from us. So those are our core programs. And then we also offer ad hoc virtual coaching. So 7 days a week, you can get coaching from DSS on, you know, a specific skill that you may be wanting to work on. And if you're unsure, we're data driven. So we give you a nice needs assessment that you could take, and it will give you our curriculum and also help you get paired with one of our success coaches who helps you work through that specific you know, issue or area that we've identified. So that's what makes up DSS.
Yeah, so hands in all over the place in every pot, essentially. Any way they need help, you can give it.
That's right. That's what we're here for.
I love that. So moving into like the larger scheme of like what it takes to run Durham Success Summit, in Black culture, we have this phrase, right? It takes a village to raise a child, which we shorten often just to it takes a village, which symbolizes that all the effort that it takes to put in something to make it really special comes from many hands, which you've clearly done with like Durham Success Summit. So who is in your village? Who has helped you commit to and complete your goals with Durham Success Summit?
Yeah, I appreciate it 'cause nobody does anything alone, and that's definitely a mantra we talk about, and it takes a village. I was fortunate, and even though I went to Duke and had an alumni network, I still graduated and was on the couch in Durham, North Carolina, looking for work. And so, there were a host of mentors, of supporters, and alums and friends who poured into me. And I think that is the spirit with which we think about how to impact the lives of young men we work with now, which is that we want the full village. So I talk a lot about cross-sector partnerships, and how important it is for us to get everybody at the table, right? If we are passionate and serious about moving the needle for young men of color in Durham, then we have to bring in our village of supporters and bystanders and rivals, right? All of whom contribute to low labor force participation rate for young Black men. And so my village includes the city of Durham, county of Durham, and includes educators, and includes other nonprofit leaders. And it includes the young men. I always tell our scholars, like sometimes they'll text me or call me and tell me about a difference that our organization made in their lives. But I tell them they motivate me, and I need them in order to stay on track as well. So mentorship is a two-way street, and so I shout out and applaud them for being a village that holds me up on the tough days of running your own organization, but also is always there for me. When you just don't want to be Derek Rhodes, and you just want to talk to young people and see how you can impact their lives and just be part of the day to day. So that's my village. We were talking a lot after our team meeting yesterday about just how important collaboration is, and getting clear. When you're clear on the role someone can have in your life or in your organization, it can actually help move things along a little bit better. And so that's what we've seen, just like allowing your village to come in. I think sometimes too, and I was guilty of this in the beginning, I'm starting DSS, which is like, it's mine, right? And you think that you have to control every part of it, from programming to marketing to operations, but you got to know what you don't know, and lean on your village to help it teach you those things or to fill some gaps. And so I want to lift that up because it was something we were all as a team struggling with yesterday, but had to realize that even our supporters are still on our team.
Of course, and maybe even your mom. I was doing some research, and she seems like a really big public figure as well. So,
mom holds it down out here. Mom holds it down. Yeah, and I think it's really cool for me to, I watched my mom work in nonprofit organizations when I was growing up, and now she is consulting senior leaders on how to create diverse and equitable workplaces. And so our dinner table sometimes is heavy. But it is great to have moms involved and all that she does in the community as well.
Yeah, amazing. So I want to talk more about this, like having diverse partnerships and kind of how you manage that. So you talked about like specifically the leadership programs, the conferences, kind of that funding piece. You guys also do like pop-up talks, like you said, office hours. There's a lot of things going on, and like you said, the ability to leverage your impact depends on how well your partners know your mission. So how do you communicate your mission to those folks to ensure that they are 100% on board and we're all moving in the collective as a collective unit?
Yeah, I'll say I make sure that I know it by heart, right? So if anybody out there is thinking about starting something, know your mission. It is, you are going to walk into a room or have to send it in an email a lot. And so, I know that our mission is to increase business education, professional mentorship for young Black men in Durham 16 through 24. But the way that we make sure others are clear on it is not by regurgitating it and memorizing it and showing how good we can do that, but it's by letting those most impacted by us achieving our mission on a day-to-day basis, letting them tell the story, right? And so, our marketing folks sometimes get mad at me because it's not Derek front, but our mission is lived out by those we serve. And so a lot of what we want to do is from our pop-up talks, right? Have our scholars talk about what DSS means to them, or allow them to plan our events and be full leaders in decision making here, is really, really important. It's something that, we practice every single day, whether, a lot of our pop-up talks are planned by alums, or they're from ideas from previous events where the conversations in real time leading to the next. And so our mission has to be lively, right? It's core to us, but we also make sure that in practice, we know what that looks like for us. And so, I'll also add, for our mission, we don't do nothing for us without us. And so we make sure that everybody who is going to be part of it is at that table too. And so that's some of the stuff that we hope that folks see visually, because I think, okay, Jay, sometimes missions, especially for nonprofits, sound like lofty goals that are hard to translate into concrete things. And so we let our impact kind of show that mission.
Of course, of course. So you do kind of a mix of the qualitative and the quantitative, and it paints a pretty picture for the
Oh
donor.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And the qualitative is huge, right? And we've been working with Microsoft on using AI and sentiment analysis to actually quantify some of the qualitative responses that we are seeing. And so I'm excited, hopefully, be able to share a little bit of that project toward the end of the year, where your mission. I think previously nonprofits were so focused on surveys and getting the results out, but how do you take that story that is shared virtually or shared in a room and assign some a percentage of growth and economic mobility to that? So that's what we're nerding out on now too.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so cool. Like I mentioned that in that bio and that introduction, you have a lot of titles, and you hold one that kind of stands out to me, of being a keynote speaker, right? These people who often bring these larger to life messages kind of down to earth for your listeners, who are really dialed into what they have to say. So I want you to imagine giving a keynote speech to yourself back when you're 18, 16. What would you say to challenge that version of yourself, similar to what you say it's the young men who come to you?
I love it. I love it. My keynote to my younger self would be centered around, I think, two things. One is it takes time. I think so often I was looking for success that day or the day after, or I had a timeline in my head. And what I say to young people now in my speeches is, let's work on a timeline, let's work on a plan, but how do we also teach you to be agile in that? How do we teach those same project management principles of shifting during a sprint or a planning process to ourselves? And growing up, I wanted to be successful so badly that I think I skipped some steps, right? That I'm learning now. And so I would just say, Derek, take a little more time. But then the other thing is, and we talked about this last week, but I don't believe in necessarily being invited to the table, right? And younger Derek was always waiting for his invitation, or he thought that by working hard and by being successful, he would get invited. And sometimes he didn't get invited. And sometimes I'm still not getting invited. But what I would say is, instead of asking for it, don't be afraid to build your own table, and also don't be afraid to pull up a seat, and share a new perspective that needs to be heard. I have found that instead of that being a negative, if handled properly and the right way, it's actually an important and efficient vehicle for change. And so, I was not thinking like that, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but it's something that guides me now. It's just taking time, but then also being strategic and persistent about the things that you would like to see changed in your own life or community.
Of course, of course. I guess I want to ask you kind of a side question. This is not in here at all.
Yeah.
And this idea of a seat at the table. And yeah, I've heard a lot more conversation about what that means recently too. And the idea of like even dismantling the table and like giving everyone a piece of
Yeah,
that the table is made of. Like
yeah.
thoughts on like, do we need to be pushing to get to the table? Or like you said, we're building our own tables. Like, how do you see that in this metaphor?
Yeah. Well, build tables, but we also got like in this matter, build tables, but put the tables in the same room
Right.
also, right? And so if everybody's building their own table, then we're not doing a great job of collaborating. And one thing that I've seen happen is, especially in the space that I work in now, is we've identified a problem and we've said, instead um, of figuring out why young men are not graduating at the same rate as their counterparts or not participating in the labor force at the same participation rate. What we're doing is we're starting more nonprofits, and so again, people are building tables, but what's happening is that organization's over there handling their thing. Durham Success Summit is over here, but how much stronger would it be if I told them about the young men in my program and how they would be able to benefit from some of the things that frankly we're not as strong at, right? And vice versa. And so for me, yeah, I want people to build their table, have your own, but also don't forget that if we're actually serious about change, it can't just be one table leading the effort. It can't just be one group leading the effort. You need your bystanders, you need your rivals, you need your supporters, you need yourself out there. And so, I learned that working for the My Brother's Keeper Alliance in DC with President Obama, where he would put us in situations where we knew we were talking to adversaries. We knew we were talking to people who did not think that young men of color deserved their own initiative in the White House, right? Or did not think that the South Side of Chicago needed revitalization and jobs. And we were there, saying that here are the benefits. And believe it or not, President Obama was right, that eventually you can move those people a little bit closer to your desired end goal. And so that's a long way of saying, okay, I really think it's important that still figure out how you can have that seat at the table.
Right, right. I love that. I love that. So I've got one more structured question, and then we can open it up to our guests that we have. So my last question before we kind of jump into that, Catalyst as an organization, which is a career readiness focused at Duke, kind of helping students go from being Duke student to Duke alumni, and is support in that mental and emotional space in between, not so much just like that direct resume help or the critical pieces. We want to give you that emotional support as well. So our biggest thing is communicate students the idea that you'll still be able to develop your personal identity while simultaneously helping maintain business values and goals. So when you were working at bigger names like Google or Microsoft or with Miami, how did you prioritize your own professional mission to serve yourself with their mission?
I didn't wait for my invitation to the table.
That's fair.
I think was probably, my background in all of those companies was in business strategy and operations and innovation. And so I graduated from Duke with a degree in public policy, thinking I would solve problems of the world, and I was, but in corporate settings. But what I was certainly finding was that, I'll give you an example at the Miami Heat. Part of my job after a game was to analyze our ticket pricing and our sales strategy, right? Why did we price a ticket at this amount versus this amount? And how did it impact attendance and flow of the game? And I was as passionate about that project as I was when we had to figure out how to open an arena in the middle of a pandemic, right, with social justice unrest going on. Mm-hmm. And I think that helped me figure out that, yes, I can be in corporate America and still be, contributing to change, right? I can still have roles or find projects and opportunities that tap in a little bit. So I'm over in the business strategy department. We had an entire community relations team, right? if I heard in a staff meeting that they were working on something that was interesting, I was not afraid to go up to a member of that team and just say, hey, I have an extra hour. Or hey, for lunch today, can I shadow just what you guys are doing? Is there any way I can be helpful? And then you certainly, by just poking your nose in things, you start finding, maybe there's a way that through my role as a business strategist, I can identify some operational challenges that the community relations team might be having. And now I have a hook to start working on community relations projects, right? And so that would be my advice and my the path that I think was really helpful for me, even at Microsoft. At the height of the pandemic, we were in Seattle talking about Zoom, talking about the features of Microsoft Teams, and what would be needed for the future of communication. But I also had to help our education team get Chromebooks and computers and laptops and wireless internet out. And so, you never know where your opportunity may come, but I'd say be ready for it.
Right. Stay ready. I got to get ready.
Stay ready, and you don't have to get ready. I'll say, I there's no defined path, I say, right? And I think you should definitely feel confident enough in yourself that if to skip steps, there were some things that I heard would be challenges for me and started this organization that weren't challenges. And so I could skip those steps, right? That others had to run in. That wasn't because I ran into other challenges, right? But so in that sense, I couldn't really skip, no one should, but like filing for 501c3 status is not a step you could skip, right? But a class on accounting I could skip because I had a really strong infrastructure from my background in corporate America and from accounting at Duke and classes that I took. And so, yeah, you're going to hear plans all the time and like step 1, step 2, step 3. But adjust it, right? Be flexible for you. Even in the work that we do, we have a structured 12-week program. But in working with 16 through 24-year-olds, that's a big gap. A 24-year-old may not need 12 weeks, and a 16-year-old might, right? And so regardless, you still have 12 weeks with us. And so we have to be flexible about which steps we allow you to skip, all right, based on what you need. And so I would say the same for you is think about where you're already strongest at. Skip that, keep moving. Don't get deterred by, being bogged down because someone told you got to focus on that thing. If you're already strong at it, keep rocking, keep going.
Well, I wanted to leave some room for you to kind of talk on anything or think of any questions that you feel like you haven't answered in my series of things. Is there anything you want to leave with students in these last words or last moments?
Yeah, I'll just say, one, if you haven't heard it today, I just want to be the first to say that you're brilliant, you're smart, you're dope, you're capable, and you are exactly where you belong. I deal with even today, right? Like, why am I running Durham Success Summit, and do I know what I'm doing? But I just want you to know that I believe in you and that I support you, and just by virtue of listening to this and participating today, you're on the right track. So that's all I want to leave folks with.